Okay, this is the video I wanted to talk about, and this is a story actually from South Shore 12 aka News 12 Long Island, which actually is covering some news a couple of days ago. We're talking about this. I shared it, but I wanted to play this story for you. It's another example of the plan, even though my opinion, obviously my opinion on what my personal situation, I'm not going to. I already spoke about it in the other video. The plan is still something that is still occurring, and they're still trying to force people like us out of Long Island. It's still occurring, and this is part of it. This is about seniors in Port Washington that are going to get forced out of Long Island.
Pleading for help.
Yeah, they're worried that they could soon be out of a home and their life savings. This as their living facility is in bankruptcy proceedings.
And News 12's Tama Ponton is in Port Washington tonight with the details.
So at least they did cover this.
To save us.
These seniors say they are fighting to save Harborside, the senior living
Yeah,
facility
they're pretty
in
much telling them to shut up and go live in Holiday City, New Jersey.
Port Washington they call home is in the middle of bankruptcy proceedings.
Many of us sold our homes, which had all our money invested in it and our life savings to buy in here.
The seniors, who are 95, 93, and 87, say they are worried they could be forced out of their homes by the end of the year if the bankruptcy happens.
Nobody thinks about the people that live here.
A second company called LCS was trying to buy the Harborside, but the state health department rejected the company's application, saying it didn't meet state requirements. LCS says it tried to work with the state, and after months of talks, it can no longer continue pursuit.
So trying to work with the state is saying they don't want to help. So it's the state of New York pretty much telling these people, you're gonna have to shut up and go live in New Jersey. Sorry.
The seniors we spoke with say they are tired of all the finger pointing and just want to know who will help them save their homes and their life savings.
If you come to the end of the road, then what?
Yeah, we don't have a place to go.
I have to find a place for my wife, and I have to find a place for me.
We're not stopping to fight. If we don't win, we're going to protest galore. We're going to become squatters.
Yeah. That's what they're going to have to do.
Now, these seniors say they are begging for the governor, the Department of Health, even the Attorney General
doesn't
to
care.
step
She
in
wants
and
us
help
out.
them. Now, the Department of Health tells News 12 that it is working to address the needs and concerns of these residents and their families. The seniors say they are waiting for them to prove it.
So there you go. Okay. And this is what's going on. And I have another article about how New York treats people with disabilities. So it says teachers pay at LI schools for the disabled lags far behind public schools. So this is exactly another example of the kind of discrimination that's going on in New York. They don't want seniors and disabled here. They want us out. It's all part of the plan. That's why I am dealing with what I'm dealing with, but I've decided, you know what, I'd still rather deal with what I'm dealing with than have to go live in New Jersey. But they can turn the screws on me in other ways. So the plan is still something that isn't going away. All right? It's still very much in play because Wall Street wants us all out. Wall Street runs the state. They want us out. So it says Sean Candaris at the Henry Viscardi School in Albertson. Well, he is an English teacher, so this is one of the people they're interviewing in this article from Newsday. Sean Cardenas has taught English at the Henry Viscardi School for the severely disabled children since 2009. The kids there are among Long Island's most vulnerable, some requiring medical treatment throughout the day. But Cardenas doesn't earn enough on teaching alone to make ends meet, so he moonlights. At 5:30 and 7 a.m. most days, he teaches cycling and yoga classes at Lifetime Fitness in Garden City. Then he's off to Viscardi in Albertson. When school ends on Mondays, he heads back to Lifetime for another class. So this guy is working very, very hard and just getting by. Meanwhile, some person trading stocks is living it up somewhere else on Long Island. By 6 p.m., he's finally home, some 14 hours after his 4 a.m. wake-up time, and there is still grading and class prep to do. With the help of his other job and his wife, sorry about that, whom he married in 2021, he is able to pay his bills. By the grace of God, finding another place of serious income and then getting married, I am finally to a place where I can take a breath, Cardenas told Newsday. But should I, a 15-year-old teacher with a master's and working with the most severely disabled in the state, be making statements like that? I don't feel that I should. So it says, what to know? Teachers at special schools for disabled children on Long Island say they are vastly underpaid compared to public school teachers, even though they work with a vulnerable population. Administrators at the schools say the problem stems from an outdated state funding formula that needs to be reformed. The state spends more money per pupil in these schools than public schools, but the staff pay still lags behind. Cardenas, 44, is a casualty of what school officials say is an antiquated and unfair state budget process that allocates funds for 11 special schools in New York State that serve deaf, blind, and severely emotional or physically disabled children. Viscardi, the Cleary School for the Deaf in Nesconset, and the Millneck Manor School for the Deaf are the ones on Long Island. And this is exactly the same kind of thing that also affects my housing agency, because the people who work at my housing agency don't get paid very much. The state doesn't fund these places properly. All right, they just don't. They don't. Unlike public schools districts, these state-sponsored schools, known as 4201s after the section of education law that created them, cannot levy taxes on residents to fund their budget, so they can't get revenue from school taxes. That means 4201s get almost all their funding from the state through a complicated formula that requires lawmakers to advocate for increases each year. State officials note that enrollment in the schools has declined, and the state still spends more per pupil in these schools than public schools due to the children's specialized needs. But educators say it's only fair that teachers who work with some of the society's neediest children earn salaries that aren't so far behind public school teachers, sometimes nearly half. And again, this is another story that South Shore 12 could cover, but again, they're not going to. Many, like Cardenas, moonlight to make ends meet. Others simply quit, lured away by the higher salaries and better benefits in the public schools. When this happens, educators say the ones who suffer are the children. It's very disappointing, said Tracy Henning, a speech pathologist at Cleary, who estimates she could increase her salary by more than 50% if she went to a public school. We're experts in the field, yet we get paid significantly less. So again, this is the way New York State treats seniors and the disabled. She, too, works extra jobs, doing speech evaluations and other professional work after she leaves Cleary. She says she stays at Cleary because she loves the environment. Working with the most vulnerable. One morning last month at Cleary, teachers were performing what administrators described as minor miracles. Teacher Teresa Degree led a half-dozen preschool children on learning how to pronounce the letter F. Partly because of technological advances such as cochlear implants that help the deaf hear, the room was buzzing with activity and speech as the children tried to figure out and pronounce the word light fluff on a bird's body, feather. In another classroom, where bilingual students had more severe hearing problems, a teacher relied more heavily on American Sign Language to teach reading and writing in English, as students are also completed math worksheets. Given their special mission and specialized training, educators at 4201s contend that their teachers and staff should be paid at least as much as mainstream public school teachers. At Viscardi, the starting salary for a teacher with a bachelor's degree is $41,898. That's all. 5 years later, it's $47,963. Now remember, you have people pushing stocks and computers, living it up in Rockville Center. They're getting paid 2-3 times as much as that. Yet it's these teachers that are doing something way more important, and they're barely getting any paid at all. For a teacher with a master's degree, the first year's salary is $48,481 a year. After 5 years, it goes up to $55,229. And after a decade, it goes up to $68,031. That's very little. For a teacher like Cardenas with 15 years of service and a master's, the base salary is $80,619. So again, how are you supposed to survive on Long Island with that? The only reason that one of the guys interviewed could is because he's married. By comparison, median teacher salaries have risen beyond $130,000 annually in more than 20 public school districts across Long Island, Newsday reported in April. The median salary in most systems across Long Island was up to $220,000. Down the road from Viscardi in the Herrick School District, including Herrick's High School, less than 2 miles away, teachers make a median salary of $130,225 in 2022-2023. These salaries reflect the high cost of living on Long Island, and that's what you need. That's what I'm saying. There's a very high cost of living, but these people who work in these schools that serve the disabled aren't getting paid enough to survive here. Cardenas and his co-workers at Viscardi will almost certainly never earn such a figure. The highest step on the pay scale for a teacher with a master's is $90,834 after 25 years. Those who stay on after 25 years only get a $250 annual raise. After 31 years, it's a $350 annual raise. Even a teacher at Viscardi who has a doctorate and has worked there 25 years doesn't make six figures. It's $98,642. It would take until their 31st year to break the $100,000 mark, with a $350 annual raise, putting them at $100,242. It's egregious, said Cardenas, who also serves as the president of Viscardi's union. Chris Rosa, president and CEO of the Viscardi Center, which includes the school, said teachers are paid as much as 45% less than their peers in surrounding school districts. I mean, how is this anything but discrimination? It is discrimination. How did they get away with this? The funding issue dates to a 2011-2012 agreement in which the governor and the state legislature, partly in an attempt to save money during a budget crunch, set frozen baseline budgets for the 4201s. The schools pay teachers using state funds and decide how to set salaries, but administrators say the funds, even with some annual increases, are insufficient to pay their teachers' salaries. Since 2011-2012, the state provided budgets haven't kept up with enrollment increases, inflation, and other costs, said Jacqueline Sims, the executive director of Cleary. Angelo Zagarelli, Viscardi's superintendent, said 4201s have not received state fund increases similar to public schools. And again, this is discrimination. For instance, in 2013 to 2014, public schools got a 4.7% increase in funding, while 4201s hit zero. In 2021-2022, it was 11.7% increase for the public schools and just 1.39 for the 4201s. This is discrimination. How do they get away with this? The increases 4201s do get are rarely included up front in the governor's executive budget, so the schools on Long Island are left to rely on the state legislature to negotiate their funding before the budget is finalized. Both Zagarelli and Sims say they are grateful for allies in the legislature. The only way 4201s or Viscardi has been able to receive growth was through the legislature. State Assemblyman Fred Thiel Jr. of Sag Harbor said he has taken on the cause of the Cleary School, even though it is not his district, in part because he is impressed with its work. The governor has never adequately funded 4201s, regardless of who the governor is. More needs to be done. The formula should be revisited and should be updated to reflect the current needs of the school. It really needs a complete overhaul. State Senator Monica Martinez, another advocate for the schools, said they must fight every year in budget negotiations to keep the funding and get increases. These children also deserve an equitable education. They deserve teachers who want to stay, said Martinez, a former teacher. The 4201s do a great job. They are a different type of program. They are providing services that, unfortunately, our public schools cannot provide. Budgeting for special needs. Kara Feselovich, a spokesperson for Governor Kathy Hochul, has said the governor is committed to providing 4201s the resources they need to support their students. Hochul helped secure $164 million in the fiscal 2025 budget for the schools, including a nearly $4 million increase in operating aid from the previous year. But the 4201 schools administration had requested $30 million over 3 years to increase salaries to better align those offered by public school districts. in the 2024-2025 state budget priorities with the same request the year before. The governor will continue to working to ensure all New Yorkers living with disabilities enjoy the education, rights, and privileges that everyone deserves, Fezolic said. Yeah, right. I don't believe that for a minute. State budget figures show that spending per pupil at 4201s is higher than at other schools, an average of $127,000 a year per child compared to $70,000 per child in private special education schools and $30,000 in regular public schools. Yet it's kind of funny the state has no problem chucking away millions on educating illegals that came to the state. Anyway, getting back to the article, the state also approved $30 million in capital funding this year, though the money is divided among the 11 4201 schools and goes toward infrastructure projects. State officials note that over the past decade, enrollment in 4201 schools has declined by 20% on average, with some schools losing up to 50% enrollment. Gee, I wonder why, because they're forcing us out. Despite that, per pupil funding at these schools has increased roughly 50% on average during that time, about 4.1 annually. Hochul's office did not comment directly on whether the governor believes teachers in 4201 should be paid more, but she says she has no authorities how schools use the funds they are granted. Sims and others argue that 4201s need much more money to function than regular schools because they perform specialized services, sometimes with as few as 2 students in a class. The students have far more educational and medical needs requiring services such as physical therapy and occupational therapy. It's a very, very small piece of a budget for taking care of the most medically fragile, physically disabled kids, Zegarelli said. We support the most fragile and most vulnerable population in New York State. So an excellent article from Newsday. Of course, I'll have that link below. So now you get to see how New York State treats people with disabilities. Let's take a look and see how New Jersey treats people with disabilities. New Jersey Access Link to expand, providing more transportation options for those with disabilities. Gee, yeah, of course. What else they're trying to say, you know?
New Jersey Transit's Access Link service is expanding. Our Naomi Yane tells us that you'll see those changes by the start of the new year.
I've been disabled officially since 2006. Accessibility is really important to me to be able to just live a normal life.
Right now, John Silva uses a healthcare transportation service to get him to the places he needs to be, and sometimes that includes New Jersey Transit's Access Link. However, it comes with its issues.
There was one time I was waiting like 2 hours for a ride.
Last week, Governor Murphy signed a law expanding the Riders Share pilot program. The expansion would now allow for Access Link customers in 16 counties who do not need wheelchair lifts to opt in to receive their rides through transportation network companies and taxis and ride shares, like Uber and Lyft.
So they can
Lyft
use
is better
Ubers and
because I can
Lyfts and
just
they get
click
reimbursed.
on my phone in the web browser, and I'll have a ride home within like 10 minutes.
Officials say since the start of the program, it has reduced wait and trip times for both riders who opt into the program and those who rely on the van's wheelchair accessibility. In a statement, Assemblyman Michael Nganamort, one of the prime sponsors of the bill, said in part, it builds upon the agency's successful pilot program and ensures our seniors and residents with disabilities have the safe, reliable, and accessible transportation they deserve moving forward. We'll likely see the expansion as soon as February 2025.
Being here is like a prison. You can only really leave your house to go to the doctor, and that's no way for anyone to live. But if Access Link is more accessible to people, we can maybe have just a fraction of just a normal life.
In Elizabeth, Naomi Yane, News 12 New Jersey.
It's totally different, News 12 New Jersey. It's totally different. It's like regular people, not snobs. Oh, I said the S word. Okay, next story to read. NJ Town first to agree to a 1,500 plus new affordable housing units over the next decade. Yeah, that's right. This is something that never happens on Long Island. A New Jersey township that once fought hard against state-mandated affordable housing obligations has reached a deal in court with housing advocates that could clear the way for more than 1,500 new, low-priced homes in the community over the next decade. Now, remember, there's no one town on Long Island that's doing any of this. Last month, South Brunswick Township and the Fair Share Housing Center, a nonprofit organization that negotiates affordable housing plans with municipalities across the state, reached a settlement in a case that dragged out for nearly a decade. If the agreement is approved by a judge, it will end the protracted legal battle. For years, advocates argued that the Middlesex County Township lacked a viable plan for developing enough affordable housing as required under state law, because New Jersey has a state law requiring affordable housing. New York does not. Instead, it urged for developing mostly smaller, less unit-dense projects that advocates wanted. Now the township has greenlit a variety of projects as part of a settlement, including some larger apartment complexes. The agreement comes as New Jersey state officials prepare to hand down requirements later this month for how much affordable housing communities across the state will be expected to develop over the next 10 years. And again, New York has no such rule at all. Though I'll give Hochul tried to do something, but it wasn't done right. Anyway, getting back to the article, these requirements are the latest round of obligations under New Jersey's unique mandate known as the Mount Laurel Doctrine, which says all municipalities must contribute their fair share of affordable housing. And we don't have anything like that in New York. After learning their requirements, municipalities will have until June 2025 to fully adopt their development plans. South Brunswick is the first municipality to commit to targets ahead of the state's new mandates. The settlement puts it several steps ahead in the process. The agreement details at least 20 different sites where the township plans to build or redevelop property into new affordable housing. The township's decision to abandon its long-standing legal fight against its affordable housing mandates is in stark contrast to other municipalities. Last month, 9 New Jersey municipalities banded together and sued to overturn a law passed earlier this year that outlines the new state rules for affordable housing. The mayor and township's members of the township council didn't respond to requests to comment for the story. The 5-member group unanimously approved the agreement according to the settlement. Francis Womack, township attorney for South Brunswick, said municipal officials feel very good about this settlement. Township officials agreed to fully flesh out their development plan and submit it to the Fair Share Housing Center for review before hearings are held in Superior Court on the new settlement over the next 2 months. If both sides agree, a judge will then have to sign off on the agreement. At least one developer is unhappy with the settlement. Attorneys for South Brunswick Center LLC said in a court filing some of the 20 sites the township identified for development are unrealistic. The company has been fighting an illegal battle with local officials to build a large apartment complex with at least 200 affordable rentals. That project is not included in the settlement. In a court filing, the company said it had been disinvited from the process. South Brunswick Center LLC's attorneys have asked the court to step in order the township and the Fair Share Housing to revise the settlement and include its project. Boy, this is a long article. What changed in South Brunswick? I don't know if I could read this whole thing. How much more is there here? I'll read the last part here because I don't want to make this video too long. I'll have the link below. Embracing new legislation. Fair Share Housing Center's Josh Bowers said he's pleased with the variety of affordable housing South Brunswick is planning. In addition to new developments, the township plans to redevelop and repurpose existing properties. For example, a former Sonesta hotel will be refurbished into 200 apartments, 40 of which will be affordably priced. The township has also agreed to extend affordability controls on 90 homes in town, which will mandate that these apartments stay affordable for at least the next 40 years. Democratic Assemblywoman Yvonne Lopez, who was one of the architects of the affordable housing law bill signed into law in the spring by Governor Phil Murphy, said in a statement that she was encouraged to see South Brunswick complying with the legislation. I'm confident this agreement will demonstrate to municipalities the utility of the new law in meeting fair share obligations and protecting hardworking families in search of a safe, affordable place to call home. The bill's co-author, Senator Troy Singleton, a Democrat from South Jersey, said he was especially glad to see a town that struggled with its housing obligations embrace the elements of the bill to proactively reach an agreement for future development. So, yeah, there you go. 2 different sides of a coin. New York's telling us to shut up and leave the state. New Jersey's saying you're welcome here. And, you know, in the other video I made, I gotta just have a drink. All right, better now. I have a little bit of a drink there. It's reading along a lot there. The air is dry and my throat is getting dry. So anyway, as I was saying, in the other video that I made earlier today, I'm not going to try to fight to try to move out of where I'm living right now in Long Island. But I still know that the plan is still something that is still happening. And those that are in charge of the plan are going to keep trying to make my life harder so I can get out. So they're going to force me out and have to go live in New Jersey. And it just feels like there's still a plan in place. It's still something that's happening. And I don't want to leave Long Island, but I know that this plan is something that they're going to keep trying to push on us, whether we like it or not. And I'm going to keep talking about it regardless because I think it's ridiculous. But I know that, hey, it may very well happen that I will have to eventually shut up and go live in New Jersey. But for now, I want to try to enjoy my time on Long Island while I still can. I know this is not a picture from Long Island. This is from Winding River Park and Toms River. But, the plan is still something that's still happening, and I think it's just so wrong on so many levels what's happening in New York State. We need to be a lot more like New Jersey in many, many ways. New Jersey has its flaws, obviously. They do need to improve their public transportation network, especially in Ocean County. But they're making big strides in the right direction in the state of New Jersey, whereas we're heading in the wrong direction. We're just making it life harder and harder for those who are seniors and the disabled, as you saw in this video, being forced out. We're being forced out. The plan is still happening. But I'm just going to try not to think about it because, every time I do, I get kind of upset. So that's all. Thank you for watching.